There were several interesting questions at Monday's full council meeting, covering topics like how we honour our armed forces who have fought and are fighting to protect our freedom, and whether the Lib Dem run council would back Conservative policies to freeze council tax in a time of economic hardship. Last year, Sutton dropped a major clangor by allowing health and safety madness to almost stop the use of a maroon cannon blast to signal the beginning and the end of the 2-minute silence for Remembrance Sunday. Fortunately, Sutton South Councillor Barry Russell intervened to stop this lunacy and has now secured a promise from the Lib Dems that it won't happen again. The Conservative opposition finance spokesman, Tim Crowley, defied the Lib Dems' finance boss, John Drage, to follow the Mayor of London's example in freezing the amount of money local government takes from taxpayers. Needless to say, he didn't get a promise, but a list of excuses. I asked a question about the voluntary smoking ban here in Beddington Park and the wonky sign that cost £800 each. Now, no one would defend anyone blowing smoke into the face of children while they're playing. I do find it a little bit desperate for local councillors to attempt to ban an activity which is perfectly legal, i.e. smoking in the open air. I can't help thinking that this is an example of Lib Dem councillors trying to justify their own existence. I'm afraid I was just met with, "It's none of your business." My Conservative colleague Terry Folds made a statement regarding Sutton's £5.5 million in an Icelandic bank, which due to recent events has been frozen. An independent report showed that we complied with best practice. Well, if losing £5.5 million is best practice, I'd hate to see what worst practice is. We're concerned too that the council's Lib Dem chiefs didn't keep a close eye on Sutton's investments with taxpayers' money in dicey banks. At the end of the day, council staff can only do what their political masters say, and if politicians have been found to be asleep on the job, there should be a reckoning. And for my Conservative colleagues tonight though, the first priority is getting our cash back. We also discussed local communication as well. Local government gets a bad rap, some of it deserved. The Conservative opposition feels that Sutton could do a whole lot more to communicate with residents, to actually listen. I made the points that humans have evolved with 2 ears and 1 mouth, and they should use them accordingly. Consulting residents isn't one of the council's strongest points. Thanks to a detached and even aloof culture of political leadership from the reigning Lib Dems, consultation is often a sham, because often local people find that the council completely ignores them and their views. Sutton recently had a wholesale change in its communication department, and I know the current team work really hard to keep residents informed, but they've got an uphill struggle because the political leadership at the top of the council is so out of touch. The Lib Dem communications boss, Councillor Tony Brett Young, rightly came under fire for breaking his promise that the new communications arrangement costs wouldn't increase. It duly doubled in costs. Now that's an example of poor communication in my view. Recent disasters like the Green Garden waste charge show just how wrong the Lib Dem council can get it, and it's often our hard-working staff who have to deal with the flack. Sadly, the Lib Dems missed the point and did what they always do, pat themselves on the back and proceeded to tell everyone how good they think they are. Residents and taxpayers aren't interested in how good smug Lib Dem councillors think they are, but they're interested in how their money is spent, and the frontline services that we all rely on, like street cleaning and rubbish collections, and most importantly, keeping the council tax down. That's why I tabled the motion, to enshrine it in the council's values and duty to consult you, the resident, before the big changes happen, and to ensure that you, the residents, are really listened to. Communications is a two-way street, and the Lib Dems refuse to take the lesson on board. At the council meeting we also discussed the Sustainable Communities Act, which went through Parliament earlier this year. This seeks to bring power from Whitehall to local councils and from councils to neighbourhoods and communities to tackle problems like we have here in Wallington Square that's been ignored for so long. I put forward a motion calling upon the council to opt into the Act to make central government more accountable to local residents, which will include a duty to publish detailed breakdown of government spending in our local area. My colleague Chris Dunlop, who represents the non-such ward in the council, made the point that this has the potential to be a much needed change in the relationship between local people, local councils and central government. The Lib Dems though use the occasion to grandstand about what they're already doing at the moment, so I suspect that Sutton won't see the changes that might be brought about by this innovative piece of legislation. Instead we'll have more of the same. Regrettably, the Lib Dem Deputy Mayor, Dave Callaghan, used an otherwise sensible debate as an opportunity for a political slanging match. Now, I can handle the rough and tumble of political debate, but I'm very irritated that Councillor Callaghan used his position as the Deputy Mayor to launch personal and political attacks, wearing the official chain of office and sitting next to the Mayor on the dais. Now I'm back in the warmth, I can tell you about the other thing that we discussed on Monday night. That's proposed changes to children with special education needs and the transport getting them to and from school. It was brought in the form of a no confidence motion against the lead councillor for Children, Young People and Learning Services, Councillor Tony Brett Young, who incidentally is also the lead councillor for communication. And it was brought by one of his former colleagues, formerly Lib Dem, now independent councillor David Theobald. Now, David's got an 8-year-old son who suffers from severe autism, so in his speech he was able to give a real personal insight on what it's like to live with a son that suffers from such issues on a day-to-day basis. Now, because these are proposals, there is no firm policy at the moment. We made a brief statement on our position, but we'll continue to listen to parents affected and make our views fully known in a full debate in the lead up to the decision in December. But it was really disappointing to see the Liberal Democrats set their bulldog Councillor Sue Steers onto David Theobald with a withering personal attack to settle old scores. I'm sure the parents in the audience of children with SEN needs would have gone away from that thinking that they have just personal motivations, that they're not really interested in the most vulnerable in Sutton, and I'm sure they would have got away feeling worse about the council than when they went in.